Exemption discussion series, and in this particular discussion we are going to have our discussion on exemption that is there in chapter value of supply. So one good news is that for all CA Inter students, there are no amendments that you have in value chapter, because your value chapter is very small. You just have to learn section 15 and then go ahead with the examination. So but make sure that those chapter is being given complete importance, because there are a lot of questions that is expected in terms of computation of value of supply. For CA Final students, it is little more elaborate. You do have valuation rules also applicable in this particular chapter. And the amendments that has happened for November examination is only on those areas which are applicable to CA Final. So thereby, if you are a CA Inter student, you don't have to watch this video. Probably you should be going ahead with the part 5, wherein I would discuss ITC chapter. Now for all CA Final students, stay back with me and then listen to this amendment that has happened. So there are two amendments that has happened. Both of them are very simple, and those amendments were already in existence for May examination. So it's mostly a revision for those people who are updated to May. So there is a rule that has been that had been introduced long back. It's not a new rule that I'm going to discuss. It's just that a change in this particular rule 31 capital A. So whenever you say capital A, you know that this is an amendment somewhere. So there was a rule inserted for a special valuation provision for lottery, betting, gambling and horse racing, wherein now there is a change in terms of valuation for lottery. So my discussion is peculiar to this lottery valuation provision. Now there are two types of lotteries that we can broadly classify the lotteries that is available in India. One is a state run lottery, another one is a state authorized lottery. What's the difference in words here? State run, state authorized. State run lottery cannot be sold outside that state. Look at Kerala state. Kerala state lottery cannot be sold outside Kerala state. See, there are few states which has banned lottery and all that, so that's a different discussion. So wherever it is legally to be sold also, we cannot be selling a Kerala lottery outside Kerala. So this is considered to be a state run lottery. It was enjoying 12% rate, wherein state authorized lotteries were, which means it is authorized by a state, but it can be sold anywhere outside the state also. Such lotteries were taxed at a higher rate of 28%. There are 2 points that we have to understand in case of rate of taxes for lottery. Point number 1 is that what is the value for the purpose of GST here? Is it the entire, say 100 rupees lottery has been issued, whether this 100 rupees is the value for the purpose of supply? The answer is no. So generally the value is considered to be, or the lottery price is considered to be inclusive of GST. We already know that nobody, when they are selling the lottery tickets, is been collecting an additional GST. This is just a lottery price. To ensure that this is functioning smoothly, they have put in a special valuation provision for lottery. So point number 1, what is the value for the purpose of lottery? It is considered to be an inclusive valuation. What do you mean by inclusive valuation? The value that is there will be considered to be already including GST. So to determine the taxable value under GST, you have to compute an inclusive calculation, which means you have to understand how much is the 100% out of this particular total price, which is already including GST. So the value for the purpose of lottery would be the face value or the price notified by the government, whichever is higher. We will take that. That amount will be considered to be inclusive of GST, which means that my value, if I have to separate the value from there, if the lottery face value is 100, then this 100 is considered to be including GST. So on what value they would have applied the rate? That face value multiply with 100 divided by 100 plus tax rate. Are you guys with me? So this is the point number 1, that we have to understand that when you value lottery, the face value or the value notified by the government, whichever is higher, is generally considered to be inclusive of GST. So the value for the purpose of GST would be this particular price notified or face value, whichever is higher, multiply with 100 divided by 100 plus tax rate. Now what's the amendment that has happened here? The amendment that has happened is that earlier the state run lottery was enjoying 12% lower rate, and state authorized lotteries were taxed at 28%. Now the government has come up and then clarified, no, I would like to keep a common rate for all lotteries. Whether it is state run or state authorized, it will be taxed at 28%. There's an interesting fact. When this particular amendment happened in 2019, at that particular time is the only time in the history of GST Council where there was a voting that has happened, because all the decisions prior to that unanimously was passed by GST Council. So, but this time around, when the lottery issue was popped up, now the government said, no, I don't want this particular rate to be increased. The Kerala state government said, no, I don't want this rate to be increased. So, there was a voting. Of course, the Kerala government or the government who was opposing lost it. The motion was passed and they brought a common rate. So, what will be the value for the purpose of lottery? The face value, price notified, whichever is higher, multiply with 100 divided by 128, because we already know the rates. I hope you are clear about this particular discussion. Now let us move to the second set of amendments that we have, which is a circular clarification on airport levies. The clarification asks you few questions on couple of additional charges that are being levied by the airports. Okay, so called as, there are two. So there's a circular 115/34/2019, which came on 11th of October 2019, which clarifies about the GST applicability on two type of fees called as passenger service fee and user development fee. Now let me walk you through the content first, so that you will be familiar with the content. Then I can give you example and then we'll try to explain this in further. So there are two fees that I'm going to talk about here. Both of them, though it looks different in name, would serve the same set of purposes. One is passenger service fee, which we call as PSF, and there is user development fee, which we call as UDF. Now, passenger service fee is being levied as per Rule 88, and user development fee is levied as per Rule 89. Both of them comes from an Aircraft Rule 1937. Now, passenger service fee, let us try to understand who gets this money. Passenger service fee is collected by airport licensees. Airport licensees are the companies which is running the airport. Like in Cochin, we have CIAL, which is a Cochin International Airport Limited, which runs the airport. So there are places where it has been run by Airport Authority of India. There are airports which are under public-private partnership. Okay, so there are different type of models, but all of these people are called as airport licensees. It can be CIAL, Airport Authority of India. There could be KIAL. In Kannur, we have an airport that is managed by KIAL. So there are different entities which is managing the airport, which is called as airport licensees. So airport licensees are eligible to collect a passenger service fee from the passengers who are embarking from their airport. So whoever is booking a ticket for their airport to travel from there, they will have to pay an additional passenger service fee to this airport licensees. Now, this is collected together with your tickets. So, you know that when you're booking it in Make My Trip or GoIbibo, you have some additional charges that has been levied from the base price. So, that would even include passenger service fee. Similar is the case with user development fee. At major airports, Airport Authority, which manages the airport, will levy this. So, the licensee can levy something called as user development fee as well. This will be collected from the passenger at the time of issuing the ticket. Both of them are collected from the passengers ultimately. Now, the understanding that you have to have is the money that you pay when you're booking the ticket is not paid to the airport licensee. It is rather paid to the airlines. So, it is collected by whom? It is collected by airlines. Are you guys understanding this? So, you are actually paying this PSF, passenger service fee, and user development fees. So, passenger service fee and user development fee, we are now going to call it as PSF and UDF. Both of this PSF and UDF are collected together with the tickets. But when you're booking the tickets, you're making the payment to the airline. So, the airline is actually collecting this amount on behalf of airport licensees. Later, they will transfer that amount to the airport licensees. Now, is that ringing any bell for you? Is there any relationship that the airport licensee and this airline company with respect to these two charges, they're collecting on behalf of someone? So they could be called as the pure agent for this collection. Now, why should this airline company do this particular activity for free? They are not doing it for free. So airlines are eligible for ₹5 as collection charges from the Airport Authority of India or any airport licensees. This is paid for facilitating collection. Now let us understand what will be the GST implication on all of this. All of this, when I say, you have passenger service fee, PSF, you have user development fee, UDF, and you will also have collection charges that is being collected by this particular airline companies for getting this money from the passengers to this particular airport licensee. So there is some fee that they are receiving as income. So there are three incomes that we are going to discuss here, and there are a few clarifications they have come up with. First clarification question to you is that this PSF and UDF, are they consideration for the service provided by airport operators or airport licenses to the passengers? The answer is yes. It is a payment that they are making for maintaining this particular airport, for using the airport, we can say. So yes, it is a consideration for the service, but you have to ask the question, the service is provided by airport operator, not by the airline, but the payment is made to the airline and then to airport operators. Are you guys understanding it? Yes, it is a supply by airport operator. It is not a supply by airlines. Is it liable for GST? Of course it is liable for GST. There's no doubt. If it's a service and all the conditions satisfied, it becomes liable for GST. Then next question would be, who needs to remit GST on PSF and UDF to the government? Now it is airport operators who are collecting PSF and UDF including GST through airline companies from the passenger. Hence airport operators are liable to pay GST to the government. There is no question on that as well. Now what about the income of the airlines? Airlines are getting collection charges paid by airport operators to the airline, and whether that is subject to GST, yes, they are subject to GST, and airlines would pay GST and airport operators can take ITC of that. Now let's try to understand the cash flow movement on all of these cases, so that if there is any doubt, that will be very clear to all of you. Let me draw the chart for that. So let's suppose he's the passenger. Say this is Air India, which is an airline, and this is Cochin International Airport Limited. Let's look at the passenger pays UDF and PSF to the Air India or airline. Now what they'll do is that, so suppose this is 100 plus 18 rupees GST, 118. The same 118 will be transferred to CIAL by Air India in the capacity of pure agent. So this 118 is an income of CIAL. Out of this, 100 is the value, 18. So I cannot say 118 is the income. So it's 100 is the income, 18 is the GST collected. This GST has to be output tax payable. Then CIAL will be paying collection fees. Suppose the collection fee is 10 rupees. So what service, why should the CIAL pay collection fee of 10 rupees plus GST 1.8? Because they are providing the service of facilitating collection. Now this particular amount is an income for airline. Now airline remits this to government, 1.8 rupees, which is GST on collection fee to the government. Now this can be taken as ITC when they are paying this particular 18 rupees as taxes by airport operator. This is the entire story of this particular clarification. I hope this is clear for all of you. Okay, so I'll see you in the next session with a very important set of amendments from Input Tax Credit chapter.